Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom, welcome back to today's Daf, Pesachim Ayin Beis, right on top of the Amid. And we're coming off the Mishnah, which taught us like this. Although a Korban Pesach is meant to be brought even on Shabbos, provided it's kosher. But the Mishnah began with the halacha of a Pesach whose shechita was done shalai lishma. He had another korban in mind. While doing that shechita, he's doing it to create a shlamim. In which case the Pesach now is pasul. A Pesach shalai lishma is pasul. So he's committed a malacha on Shabbos, and he brings a chatas. Says the Gemara in the first line, I'm Beis Amud Aleph, b'maya skinan, what are we speaking about? When he was sheicha the Pesach shalai lishma, what was going through this person's mind? Ilema b'toya. Are we speaking that it was inadvertent? He did it unknowingly. He mistook the Pesach for a shlamim. He thought it was really a shlamim. And the Mishnah says the Pesach now is pasul. In which case the shechita is considered a malacha. Shamas minah. Akira betos havi akira. Shall we derive from here that even a mistaken akira, it wasn't his intent to take the Pesach and uproot it and turn it into a shlamim. He did it by accident, by mistake. Should we learn from here that even a akira which took place betos, a diversion which happened unknowingly, havi akira is considered an akira, and that changes the status of the korban, which is actually not so simple. As Tosfos tells us, it's a machlekes in Gemara Menachos. Should we derive from here, should we have a Raif now Mishnah, that even a mistaken akira is considered an akira, which changes the din of the korban Pesach? Says the Gemara, no, not necessarily. Ela ba'ikar. Rather, let's interpret that our Mishnah is speaking where he did it intentionally. He knew what he was doing. He knew that it was a Pesach, and he knowingly and willingly diverted it to Shlamim. That's why it's Shlei Shmoy and it's possible. Ema Seifa. That's the case. Let's take a look at the next part of the Mishnah, which discusses a case as follows. Ushar kol zvachim sheshachtan l'shum Pesach. We should take a different korban, a shlamim for instance, which may not be brought on Shabbos. But this fellow took the shlamim and did the shechita on the shlamim l'shem Pesach. He's trying to make a Pesach from it. Does he have to bring a chatos or not? No, he thought it's mutter. He didn't realize it was Shabbos. Is this considered a melacha which generates a chatos? Says the Mishnah, Einan ru'uyin chayav. If the korban that he's being sheichet is not suitable it's not fit for a Pesach, it's cattle, it's not a sheep, it's not a goat, then he's certainly chayav. Im ru'uyin hein. However, if this animal is potentially a candidate for korban Pesach, Rabbi Yehuda machayev chatas. Still, Rabbi Yehuda says he needs to bring a chatas. He did a malach. Rabbi Shua paiter. Why does Rabbi Shua say he's pater? So we learned in the Mishnah because he confused. He thought perhaps this is a korban Pesach. His intent was to do a mitzvah. Now v'iba oiker. But if you say that the Mishnah is speaking where he willingly came to uproot the current designation of the korban, he knew that it was a shlamim. He was willingly changing it into a chata, into a Pesach. If that's the case, mali ru'uyin, mali she'inan ru'uyin. What difference does it make whether this animal was a potential candidate to be used for a Pesach or not? In either case, he's not making any mistakes. He's doing this on purpose. Because apparently the point of ru'uyin is that since it's so close in nature, it's similar to a Pesach, that justifies the confusion. But if we're speaking that he's doing it intentionally, then it's irrelevant whether it's a calf or a goat. He knows what he's doing, and doing it anyway. Elab shita b'toya. Apparently, this part of the Mishnah, where Rabbi Shua says that if he confused things, he took a shlamim which was a goat, which appeared to him perhaps like a korban Pesach, and he did it like a korban Pesach, he's pater because it was toya. It was as a result of confusion. It was unknowing. It was a mistake. Elab shita b'toya. Is that the case? Reisha ba'oker v'seifa b'toya, the first part of the Mishnah, where he took the Pesach and did a Shloi Shema. You tell me it's speaking that he's doing it intentionally. Oiker. And the Seifa was by accident? It seems a bit strange that the Mishnah should switch tracks in the middle. Omar Rabbi Abin, yeah, and yes. Reisha ba'oiker v'seifa b'toya. Apparently that's the pshat in the Mishnah. We begin with oiker, where it was done intentionally, and continue discussing a case of toya, where it was done by accident. Ashkeche Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef met Rabbi. He noticed him davakoi buchlusa d'inch. That he was amongst a large crowd of people. Amalei, so he asked Ravo, Mas nisan mai, how do you understand pshat in the Mishnah? Amalei, he responded, exactly as we said. Reisha ba'oiker, v'seifa b'toya. The first portion of the Mishnah speaking where he willingly, intentionally diverted the Korban Pesach to something else. The Seifa was speaking where it was done by accident, inadvertently. So he learned it from him 40 times. And it was so clear to him now, as though it was sitting in his pocket. So that's the pshat in the Mishnah. Tanan, let's continue along the Mishnah. Amar Belezer. Belezer was the one who held that even if he did the shlamim l'shem Pesach, and we're speaking about an animal that theoretically can be used for a Pesach, it's a goat, it's a sheep, still, Rabbi Lezer considers this to be like any typical standard malach on Shabbos, in which case is chai v'chatas. Rabbi Lezer argued his point. Rabbi Lezer, ma in Pesach shemuta l'shmoi. I'll prove my point with a kal v'chomer. Since we find that even the Korban Pesach itself, which you can be sheichet on Shabbos, l'shmoi. However, kisheshina shmoi chayav, should he change its name to a shlamim? He did the shchita l'shem shlamim, he's certainly chayav. It's a Mishnah. Everybody agrees to that halacha. If that's the case, certainly zvachim, other types of karbanos, shein asur l'shman, they cannot be brought on Shabbos. Even l'shman, you can't bring a shlamim on Shabbos. Certainly, kisheshina shman ein adin sheyichayev. Certainly, if he changed its name, in which case it's a substandard hakrova, of course he's chayev. So that was Rabbi Lezer's argument. Let's stop for a moment. V'im isa. Now, according to this approach, which is that the Reisha, which discusses the Pesach being diverted, is speaking ba'oiker, when it was done intentionally, whereas the Seifa, the other Korban l'shem Pesach, was done unintentionally, b'toya. If that's the case, then how could Rabbi Lezer compare one to the other? Holy dummy! You can't compare the Reisha ba'oiker v'seifa b'toya. The Reisha, you know why? He's chayav when he did the shchita on the Pesach shloi l'shmai, because he was oiker. He knew what he was doing. The Seifa, however, was a mistake. He confused one with the other. How could he compare the two things? Perhaps in the Reisha is chayav, but not in the Seifa. Says Mother Rabbi Lezer le'shanile. So the truth is that according to Rabbi Lezer, who applies this kal v'chomer, he doesn't differentiate between oiker and toya. Rabbi Lezer holds that even if he approached the shlamim thinking that it was a Korban Pesach, it still is not considered a mitigating factor. He did a malach and he brings a chatas. Therefore, according to Rabbi Lezer, oiker, toya, knowingly, unknowingly, all one and the same, and can be compared one to the other. However, says the Rabbi Shua the Shani lay, but according to Rabbi Shua, where there is a big difference between doing something willingly, intentionally, such as in the Reisha when he did the Pesach l'shem shlamim, where he was chayiv, and between that and the other case, where he took a shlamim thinking that it was a Pesach, in which case Rabbi Shua says it's pater. According to Rabbi Shua, there's a big difference between oiker and toya. So why doesn't Rabbi Shua respond to him in kind? You can't compare the Reisha where it was oiker. Certainly that's a chiyav chatas, whereas in the Seifa, it was a toya, and that's why I hold it's pater. He was oisek b'dvar mitzvah. He was involved in preparing himself to do a mitzvah, and he actually did a mitzvah because, as we said, the shlamim, even shloi l'shman, is kosher. So why couldn't Yeshua simply respond in kind? The Seifa was done unintentionally. He mistook the shlamim for the Pesach, and that's why I hold it's pater. So that's why you're right. Hochi Karmali. This is what Yeshua was responding to Rabbi Lezer. L'dei dummy. According to me, according to my approach, there's no comparing. the Reisha to the Seif. Reisha Bo'ikar, Sefer B'toya. In the Reisha, he knew what he was doing. That's why he's Chayiv. In the Seif, he didn't. That's why he held his potter. He was engrossed and involved and preoccupied in the Korban Pesach activity, and that led him to confuse matters. He took the Shlamim, or Sheikh L'Shem Pesach. I hold that he's potter. Now, Lidi Dach, but according to your approach, according to you, who doesn't seem to be too impressed with the To's factor, you hold that even if he mistook the Shlamim for the Pesach, he is still Chayev. So let's speak your language. Let me go onto your page. Lidi Dach, Loi. I can still differentiate. You will bring a raya from the Pesach, which is mutter lishmai, and if it's shlo lishmai, it's chayav chatas. Certainly the shlamim, which is also lishmai, if he diverted to shlo lishmai, in which case it's an incomplete korban, of course it's chayav chatas. I'll respond to that. Loi. You can't compare. Im amers with Pesach. If you apply this halacha to a Pesach, you know why? That's because over there, Sheshina Shmuel Davar Aser. What did he divert a Pesach to? To a Shlomim. A Shlomim you can't bring on Shabbos. So you went a step down. That's why it's considered a complete malach. Toimer bezvachim. But when it comes to other karbanis, that's different. Sheshina Shmuel Davar Mutter. Because in that case, he diverted the Shlomim to something which is mutter to be brought on Shabbos. He had a Pesach in mind. Now Tosfos explains that even according to Rabbi Yehuda, this should be a mitigating factor. Fact is, he upgraded it. He took the shlamim and directed it to something which can be brought on Shabbos. So that was Rabbi Shua's response to Rabbi Yehuda. And therefore, Rabbi Shua says, in the case where he grabbed the shlamim thinking that it was a Pesach, and did the shlamim l'shem Pesach, he is pot. And the Gemara continues elaborating on the Mishnah. Amalei Rabbi Yehuda, the Mishnah continues with Rabbi Yehuda responding as follows. I'm going to negate your argument. Rabbi Shua said, well, when you divert something to something which is mutter on Shabbos, that should be a reason to remove the chatos requirement. The korban is brought on Shabbos for the sake of the tzibur. For instance, the Tamid Shel Shachar, Tamid Sheben Arbaim, they will prove my point. Here we have an example of something that is mutter. They can be brought on Shabbos. Shein mutar, lishman. The Tamid is mutter. If you bring it lishman on Shabbos. Nevertheless, v'ashoichet lishman chayiv. Should a person grab another behema and be sheichet l'shein Tamid, I'm making a Tamid, he's certainly chayiv. So what do we see here? That even if you're mishana to something which is mutter, you're still chayiv. Amalei B'shua, no. Loi, im amars b'murat tzibur. Yeah, if that applies to a murat tzibur, you know why? That's because a murat tzibur are set down. They have a set amount. Shekain yeshlan kitzvah. There's a limit. There's one tamid in the morning, one in the afternoon. In which case, there was no reason for confusion. Why should he think that this thing is a tamid? He knows tamid was brought this morning. So it's not the mitzvah that generated the confusion, and therefore he's chayiv v'chatas. Talking about Pesach she'en le kitzvah, as opposed to Korban Pesach, which has no set limit. So this fellow, even if he already brought his own personal Korban Pesach, but when he noticed an animal roaming through the Azar, he figured this must be someone's Korban Pesach. Let me grab a mitzvah, and he did the shechita for the sake of Pesach. In reality, it was a shlamim. Therefore, says Rabbi Shua, he was ta b'dvar mitzvah, he was torrid b'dvar mitzvah. His intent was to do a mitzvah, and he actually did a mitzvah. Although it wasn't a Pesach, it was a shlamim that he was sheichet l'shem Pesach, in which case it's still kosher. And therefore, says Rabbi Shua, this is not like your typical malacha, which is strictly an avera. Here there was an intent to do a mitzvah. In actuality, a mitzvah was carried out, and therefore he's pot. So up until now, we had the debate between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shua. The Gemara continues. So do you mean to say, the chalecha, the islay kitzvah, whenever there's a limit, there's a kitzvah, there's a cap, mechayiv Rabbi Shua? Rabbi Shua will agree that it's chayiv. And the point again is that there's no tabud var mitzvah. You meant to know what's what. By Pesach, it's unlimited. Yeah, there's room for confusion and mistakes. But by something which has a kitzvah, it's measured, it's exact. You can't attribute your toes to the mitzvah. Is that so? I'll show you an example of a case which has a kitzvah and still Rishua is paiter. Because it's the mitzvah, it's the preoccupation with that upcoming mitzvah that generated this confusion. What's the example? Bris Milah. We know that a Bris Milah on Shabbos is mutter, provided that it's Milah Bizmana on the 8th day. But if it's already past the 8th day, sure, the baby needs to have the Milah, but it can't be done on Shabbos. We have an example of an halacha of two babies. One baby had to have his Milah on Shabbos. His 8th day fell out on Shabbos. And one of them needed a bris, but not on Shabbos. And this moil has two babies in front of him. Tinoikis is an example of Yesh Lein Kitzvah. He knows that there's only one to be done on Shabbos. And what does it say in the Mishnah? But Tanan, Misha Hayle Shnei Tinoikis. This fellow had a double job. He had two babies to do a Milah on, but on different days. Echad Moile Achar Shabbos. One of them's bris fell out on Sunday. Ve'echad Moile b'Shabbos. The other one's bris fell out on Shabbos. And this moil mixed things up. He got confused. And what did he do? V'shachach. He forgot Umol Eshel Achar HaShabbos b'Shabbos. And he did the bris milah on the Sunday baby on Shabbos. Chayiv. In that case, he's certainly chayiv. You know why? He did a unnecessary melech on Shabbos, and he didn't even do a mitzvah. Rabbi Shua's Torah applies to a person who's torud, he's preoccupied, he's busy with a mitzvah, and he actually did a mitzvah, somewhat. In this case, sure, he was busy doing a mitzvah, he's preparing for the mitzvah, to do the milah on that Shabbos baby, but what did he actually do? He did it on the Sunday baby. It's still premature. It's still the 7th day. Therefore, all agree it's chayiv chatas. However, echad l'moile be'erev Shabbos. Come Shabbos, he has two babies in front of him. One of them whose bris was meant to fall out yesterday. For some reason, it got postponed. Ve'echad l'moile b'Shabbos, and the other baby needs to have his milah today. So now he's faced with two babies, and again, he mixed things up. V'shachach umol eshel erev Shabbos b'Shabbos. He thought this one was the Shabbos baby. It turns out that this one was the Friday baby, which doesn't justify milah on Shabbos. So he did a malach. Rabbi Lezer mechayev chatos. He needs to bring a chatos. Although his intent was to do a mitzvah, and he actually carried out a mitzvah, Rabbi Lezer doesn't differentiate, there's a chayev chatos. For Rabbi Shua poiter, here we have Rabbi Shua again. Since he was tabed var mitzvah, his intention was to do a mitzvah. He knew that he had at least one Shabbos bris to do. So in his haste and his preoccupation, he confused things, but he actually did a mitzvah nonetheless. True, it was the wrong baby. It was the Friday baby instead of the Shabbos baby. But even the bris on the Friday baby was considered a key mitzvah. It was already past its 8th day. Therefore, as a Rabbi Shua, he's pater. He's told b'dvar mitzvah, v'asa mitzvah is pater. What are we speaking about? Something which is unlimited? Ain't like kitzvah, like the Korban Pesach? No, absolutely not. He knows there's only one baby that needs to be tended to on Shabbos. It's something with a very precise limitation here. He knows that it's set. It's one baby, no more. So if we're going to be sure, a davar sheyesh le kitzvah will not be paid to him, like the story with the Emurei Tzibur that we discussed. Since he knows there's only one Talmud today, there's no room for confusion. So why is that when it comes to the bris, Rabbi Shua says it's pater, even though it's something sheyesh le kitzvah. It's something that has an exact number to it. Omar Rab Ami, no. Let's reinterpret things. Rabbi Shua will say pater even in a case where there is a kitzvah on a limit, provided it's still in advance of the fulfillment of that mitzvah. So for instance, if the korban tamid has yet to be brought, and he grabs an animal thinking it's the tamid and does the shechita, he's certainly pater, even though we're speaking about something that has a very exact number to it, yesh lekitzvah. So if it's in advance, he's pater. However, if it's already past the kiyum of that mitzvah, then there's nothing to attribute his confusion to. The mitzvah has already been accomplished, in which case it's chayiv. Amar ba'ami, hochav ma'askin. This Mishnah, which tells us that even in the case of two babies, where it's a davar sheyesh lekitzvah, we're dealing with an exact number. The Mishnah says, if he has the Erev Shabbos baby with the Shabbos baby together in front of him, and he confused matters, he did the bris on the Erev Shabbos baby, he will be pater. You know what we're speaking about? Which one did he do first? The Erev Shabbos was done first. In which case, when he was doing that bris, he still had both babies in front of him, awaiting the bris. So he was torrid with bar mitzvah. He was preoccupied with the preparations of a proper bris, a proper Shabbos bris, because both of them were still awaiting the bris. In which case, since he was torrid, and he actually did a mitzvah, so although he did the bris on the wrong baby, he is pater. The Ika hach the Shabbos the torrid, because in front of him he has that Shabbos bris, which preoccupied him. So that's why he's pater, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Hocha, however, now Mishnah, where Rabbi Yehuda seems to agree that if one was sheikh l'shem the korban tzibur, he is chayiv. It's unrelated to the fact that it's yesh lekitzvah. Rather, we're speaking about a case hocha going shekadam v'shachtinu limur tzibur b'reisha. What happened was that he first did the shechita, him or somebody else, on the korban tzibur. So that was done already. In which case, he's no longer preoccupied with the shechita of the korban tzibur. It's done deal. It's over with. There's no korban tzibur awaiting shechita. Therefore, even Rabbi Yehuda agrees. There's nothing to justify his confusion. And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda agrees that he's chayiv. Says the Gemara, Ihach, if that's the case, that we're speaking, that the korban tzibur has already been brought. Let's proceed. Let's continue in the Mishnah. We said that Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Eliezer both agree that in this case he's chayiv, because it's already passed. The korban tzibur has already been brought. Nobody's anticipating the korban tzibur any longer, so there's no room for confusion. The Mishnah continues with another sheet. Rabbi Meir Omer, no, even in this case he's pater. Afa sheichet l'shem emuri tzibur pater. Now, the way you interpret it, we're speaking Afa gav the kadam shachtinu li'emuri tzibur b'reisha. You just established that the Mishnah is speaking that the emuri tzibur was already tended to. So even in that case, the kadam shachtinu li'emuri tzibur b'reisha, Rabbi Meir will say pater. Is that so? It can't be. We have a brayso which tells us otherwise. According to Rabbi Meir, if the mitzvah has already been fulfilled, there's no more justification for his confusion, and he brings a chatas. Yeah, it wasn't done intentionally. He overlooked, but it's still a shoygig. It's an ordinary shoygig, in which case he brings a chatas. Vatani, we learned in the brayso. Rab Chia me'evel oref, from that place, Amar Rab Meir, quoted Rab Meir as follows. Rab Meir had a different approach to the machlekes of Eliezer and Rabbi Yehuda. He said like this: Lo nechlu Rab Eliezer and Rabbi Yehuda. There's no machlekes between them in the following case. Al shehoyu lo shnei tinokes, echad lamol erev Shabbos, ve'echad lamol b'Shabbos. This male had before him two babies, one whose milah was meant to take place erev Shabbos, and the other one on Shabbos itself. And what happened? V'shachach. He got confused. He mixed things up. Umal eshel erev Shabbos v'Shabbos. and he did the Milah on the Erev Shabbos baby on Shabbos. All agree in this case the Chayiv. He has to bring a Chatas. Al Ma Nechalku. When is there a machlekes between Eliezer and Bishur? Al Shahoylo Shnei Tinoikus. In the case where the Moed had two babies in front of him. Echad Lamal Achar Shabbos. One whose Milah was meant to take place on Sunday. Ve'echad Lamal B'Shabbos. The other one was meant to take place on Shabbos. V'shachach Umal Eshel Achar Shabbos B'Shabbos. He confused things, and he did the Milah on the Sunday baby today on Shabbos. So what's the halacha there? The Rabbi Yehuda Mechayev Chatas. Rabbi Yehuda says he has to bring a Chatas. Rabbi Shua Pot. In this case, Rabbi Shua says Pot. Well, let's stop for a moment. This brisa seems to be a bit difficult to understand. Why is it that in the Reisha, when he had the Friday baby and Shabbos baby in front of him, and he did the Milah on the Friday baby, do we say all agree? He's Chayiv. Explains Rashi. The Gemara at this point figures that what happened was, come Shabbos, the Moel did first the Milah on the Shabbos baby. In which case, the Shabbos mitzvah has been completed, fulfilled. He's no longer busying himself preparing for a Shabbos bris. He's no longer torrid in a mitzvah, which can be done on Shabbos. So at this point, he no longer has that exemption. So if you proceeded and did the Milah on the Friday baby on Shabbos as well, that's a full-fledged malacha. There's no patur of ta'ah b'dvar mitzvah because he already did the mitzvah. That's why in that case, all agree is chayiv. Again, we're speaking that he had a Friday baby and a Shabbos baby before him on Shabbos. He first did the Milah on the Shabbos baby appropriately. Once he got that out of the way, he proceeded to the Friday baby. The Milah on a Friday baby on Shabbos is a full-fledged malacha, and he has no excuse here. He's not ta'ah b'dvar mitzvah. He's no longer preoccupied in preparation for a Shabbos bris. So all agree is chayiv. However, in the second case, where it's Shabbos, he has two babies before him, a Shabbos baby and a Sunday baby. In which case, he's still busying himself preparing for the Shabbos bris, which is mutter on Shabbos. Instead, he went over to the Sunday baby. So since he's toya b'dvar mitzvah, since in his haste and his preoccupation to do a mitzvah, he inadvertently transferred over to the Sunday baby, he's potter. So that seems to be preliminarily the pshat in this price. But the Gemara doesn't like it. The Tispra, can you suggest that this is the pshat? Can this brisa be understood as such? How could it be? Ma hasam d'lo ya'avad mitzvah. Look, if in the second case, we had a Shabbos and Sunday baby before him, and the bris was applied to the Sunday baby, in which case there was no mitzvah at all fulfilled, it's premature. Even in that case, Pater Bishua. Bishua says he's Pater. Heicha the Kavod mitzvah. Mechayiv. Can you even contemplate that in the Reisha? Well, he actually did a mitzvah. Sure, he wasn't preoccupied any longer with doing a mitzvah because he already did the Shabbos bris. But at the end of the day, what did he do? He did a mitzvah. He did the bris on the Friday baby. Although a day late, it's still a mitzvah. Mechayiv, can you say that Rabbi Shua would say chayiv in that case? It seems improbable. Let's look at the end result. He did a mitzvah. It can't be worse than a case where he did no mitzvah, where you say he's potter. Certainly in the case where he did a mitzvah in the Reisha, he's also potter. So as a result of this kasha, the Gemara is going to reinterpret the pshat in the brisa. We had a kasha from this brisa because, getting back to the case in the Mishnah, if somebody is sheichet l'shem emurei tzibur, Rabbi Shua and Rabbi Eliezer both agree that it's chayiv. And the Gemara said, because speaking that the korban tzibur has already been brought, in which case there was no room for confusion any longer. The kasha was, but what about Ramey's sheet? Ramey says even in that case he's potter. Apparently we're speaking that the Talmud had already been brought, and he's still potter, even though there's no preoccupation with any mitzvah today. Is that so? We had a kasha from this brisa, where the way we interpreted the brisa up until this point, it seemed to say that in a case where the Shabbos mitzvah had already been performed, right? The case where he had a Friday and Shabbos baby before him, and he did first the Shabbos baby, in which case the Shabbos mitzvah had already been cleared out of the way. he's no longer a Tavad Var Mitzvah. So when he proceeded to do the Milah on the Friday baby, he's Chayiv. Apparently even this is Rameir speaking, even Rameir holds that once he's no longer busying himself with a Shabbos mitzvah, there's no P'tur. And this is in contrast with Rameir and Al Mishnah, who says that even after the Tamid had been brought, there's still room for confusion and to exempt him from Chatas. Says the Gemara, let's reinterpret the Brayse here. Amri Dvei Rabbi Yana. Dvei Rabbi Yana explained as follows. Truthfully, according to Rameir, there really is no difference whether or not that Shabbos mitzvah had been fulfilled. As long as when he entered Shabbos, there was a mitzvah awaiting his kiyum. So that explains the Brayse. We had a Reisha and a Seifa. In the Reisha, he had a Friday baby and a Shabbos baby awaiting Milah. And Rameir says, all agree, even Rabbi Shua agrees, that he's chayav for doing the Friday baby on Shabbos. What are we speaking about? Reisha kegoin shekadam umal es shal Shabbos be'erev Shabbos. He did not enter Shabbos with two babies before him. What happened was that he was kadam umal. He advanced. He did the Shabbos baby on Friday. Kadam umal shal Shabbos be'erev Shabbos. So by the time Shabbos arrived, he only had one tinok, which was the Friday baby. So he never entered Shabbos preoccupied and awaiting fulfillment of a mitzvah, which is mutar on Shabbos. There was no Shabbos baby available. Sheloi nitna Shabbos lidachos. Shabbos was not given to be overridden in this case. Therefore, all agree, according to Rameir's approach, all agree there's no justification for his confusion and for his mistake. When he entered Shabbos, at the outset of Shabbos, he should have known full well that there was no mitzvah to be done on Shabbos. And that's why he's chayiv. The Seifa, however, in the Seifa where he had, on Shabbos he had a Shabbos baby and a Sunday baby, both awaiting bris. In that case, certainly, the Seifa nitna Shabbos l'dachas esloi, Shabbos was slated to be overridden by this fellow because he had a Shabbos baby who needed a bris today. That explains the Brayse. However, now a Mishnah, why does Rameir say that he's potter if he did a shchita l'shem kabarnas tzibur? That's because when he entered Shabbos, Shabbos was slated to be overridden. A carbon tzibur was meant to be brought today. Hacha harei nitna Shabbos lidachas etzel carbon tzibur, and therefore he's potter. So the point is, one, according to Rameir, if a person is preoccupied with preparations for a mitzvah which is meant to be done on Shabbos, as long as that mitzvah is meant to be done this Shabbos, so when he enters Shabbos, Shabbos is meant to be overridden by that mitzvah, that explains and justifies all his mistakes and confusions. Therefore, Rameir says, even should he take an animal and do the shchita l'shem carbon tzibur, he's potter, because a carbon tzibur is meant to be brought today. So what that it was already brought? In his haste, he didn't pay attention. He knew that a carbon tzibur was meant to be brought today, and he just proceeded. He didn't realize that it was already brought. He didn't pay much attention. He was in a frenzy, in a haste, and therefore he's potter. Here as well, meaning in the first case of the Brayse, where he had a Friday and Shabbos baby who needed a bris. And what happened was he did the Shabbos baby before Shabbos. And he entered Shabbos without anything to do. He wasn't waiting to do a bris. Here as well, he should be potter. Why? Because Shabbos is meant to be overridden. With respect to other babies, other Shabbos babies out there, so perhaps he got confused based on that. He knew that Shabbos is a day to do a bris, and therefore he proceeded to do the bris on the Friday baby, even though it was Shabbos. Amar Leis, Rav Kahana responded, no, that's not enough of a reason. That doesn't justify. Legabi the high gavra mias. But bottom line is, regarding this fellow, this specific male, this Shabbos was not meant to be overridden by him. Therefore, he shouldn't have been so preoccupied and so hasty. He should have known that he has nothing to do this Shabbos. And he should not have done the bris on the Friday baby when it was already Shabbos. Continues the Gemara. Getting back to the Lashon of the Mishnah, we had the Machlekes and Rabbi Yeshua. V'shar kol hazvachim, he took a different carbon, sheshachna shum Pesach, where the shechita was l'shem Pesach. And it depends. Im einan ru'in chayiv. If these animals are unfit for a carbon Pesach, as a calf, in which case there's no room for confusion, then he brings a chatas. V'im ru'in. But if they are suitable potentially to be used for a Pesach, then we have a machlekes. So again, im einan ru'in, if they're not suitable candidates, it's a different variety, they're not meant to be used for a carbon Pesach, then there is no excuse for his mistake, and he brings a chatas. V'im ru'in, but if they are potentially suitable, same type of animal, Rabbi Lezer Machayev chatas, Lezer says there's no difference. It's considered a malach. Rabbi Shua Paiter, because he was confused due to the fact that he was waiting to do a mitzvah, a carbon Pesach, and he mistook this animal for the carbon Pesach. Man Tana, who is this Tana? The way the Machlekes Lezer Rabbi Shua is presented, who is the one that presented in this manner? Man Tana the Shanile ben Ru'in l'shein Ru'in, who differentiates between an animal which is suitable potentially to be used as a carbon Pesach, and therefore his mistake is justified, as opposed to something which is not right, in which case his mistake is not justified, and it brings a chatas. Who is this Tana who presents Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Shua in this light? Rabbi Shimoni. This is Shittas Rabbi Shimon, and basically the Gemara up until this point was following Rabbi Shimon's presentation, who is the Tana of Al Mishnah, who presents the Shittas accordingly. And he holds that in a case where he was toyib b'dvar mitzvah, he was preoccupied with a mitzvah, he actually did somewhat of a mitzvah. Here we have the machlekes. Rabbi Shua says he's pater, Rabbi Lezer says he is chayiv. But Rav Meir holds differently. He holds that in this case all agree that he's pater. The Sanya, echad hazvachim, this is Rav Meir. Echad hazvachim haru'in, whether karbanos which are suitable candidates for the carbon Pesach, a sheep, a goat, vechad zvachim she'ein ru'in, or they're totally unfit for the carbon Pesach. V'chein, likewise, ha'shechet l'shem murit tzibur. Person takes another animal and does a shechita l'shem the carbon tzibur. Of course, this is all taking place on Shabbos. Pater divrei Rav Meir. Rav Meir holds even all these different types of cases, something which is not even right for the Pesach, something which is being done l'shem carbon tzibur, he's going to be pater because he got confused on account of the mitzvah. This was a mitzvah-related confusion. So according to Rav Meir, all shittas, Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Shua, subscribe to this sheet, to this halach. Whereas Rabbi Shimon says no, it's a machlekes. Oh, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shua. There's no machlekes between them. Al she'ein and ru'in. In a case where he has a calf, which is not right for the carbon Pesach, shechayiv. Certainly, there's no justification for his tos. He's definitely chayiv v'chatas. Aman nechalku. In which case is there a machlekes? Ala ru'in. When the carbon is right for the Pesach, in which case confusion reigns. He mistook one for the other. In that case, we have machlekes. Rabbi Lezer machayev chatas. Even in this case, he brings a chatas. We show a paita because he was tabed var mitzvah and asa mitzvah. In conclusion, we have two basic approaches in our sugya, speaking about a case where a person did an unjustified shchita on Shabbos. Rabbi Shimon's approach is that there's a machlekes between Rabbi Lezer, who holds that in all cases he is chayev chatas. According to Rabbi Shua, if he was sheichet another carbon l'shem Pesach, and that carbon was roy, it was a type of animal typically used for the carbon Pesach, he was tabed var mitzvah. He thought it was a carbon Pesach, and he actually did somewhat of a mitzvah because this shlomim l'shem Pesach is kosher. Therefore, Rabbi Shua says he's pot. But if the animal is not roy for Pesach, in which case it doesn't justify his confusion, he is chayev. Same thing regarding sheichet another carbon l'shem, a carbon tzibur. If it's before the carbon tzibur had been brought, in which case he was tabed var mitzvah, he thought this was the carbon tzibur, he is pot. But if it's already after the shechita of the carbon tzibur, there's no justification for his tos, and he brings a chatas. Rabbi Meir's approach is entirely different. He holds that all shittas, Rabbi Lezer and Shua, both agree, the concept is one. If Shabbos was meant to be overridden by this individual, then any confusion related to that mitzvah exempts him from a carbon chatas. So if he shechted a different carbon l'shem Pesach, whether it's roy l'shem Pesach or not roy for Pesach, when he did another carbon l'shem tzibur, whether it's before the shechita of the carbon tzibur or afterwards, it's irrelevant. He's always pater. On this Shabbos, it was meant to be this mitzvah, and therefore in his haste and confusion, he mixed things up, and therefore it's considered a mitzvah-related tos, and he's pater from a carbon chatas, and of course, this whole discussion applies to the bris milah as well. The Gemara will continue elaborating on Rameir's sheet. Omar Rabbevi Omar Blaz. Poiter Hayer Rav Meir. Rav Meir would say potter even in the following case. Afilu egel shel zivchei shlomim. Even if he took a calf, a shlomim calf, sheshachta l'shem Pesach. He did the shechita l'shem Pesach. Although a calf cannot be used for a Pesach, it's still considered a mitzvah-related confusion. In his haste and frenzy, he thought this was a Pesach, and therefore he's pot. Amalei Rabbi Zeru Rabbevi. How could he say that? V'amar Rabbi Yochanan, Moide Hayer Rav Meir, v'bali mumen. Rav Meir agrees that if he has an animal which has a mum, there's no room for confusion, there's no justification, no basis for mixing it up with the carbon Pesach. And if he did the shechita on the bal mum, he's chayiv. Why is it different than the calf, the egel, shel zivchei shlomim? Amar Leisi told him there's a big difference. V'bali mumen lo taradbu. He's not busy and preoccupied in preparation of the akrav of this bal mum. There's no haste, there's no frenzy. As opposed to the egel of the shlom, he's anticipating the akrav of that carbon. So in his haste, he thought it was a Pesach, and therefore he's pot. Ba'minei Rav Rav Nachman. What about chulin l'shum Pesach? Mali Amar Meir. What would Rav Meir hold if he took a chulin animal and did the shechita on Shabbos l'shem Pesach? Amar Leis, he told him, Peter Hayer Rav Meir. Afilu chulin shum Pesach. Even in this case, he's pot, because it's a mitzvah-related tos. Really? V'amar Rabbi Yochanan, didn't Rabbi Yochanan tell us? Moide Hayer Rav Meir v'bali mumen. If he did a shechita on a bal mum, l'shem Pesach, he's chayiv. There's no room for confusion there. Chulin as well should have not been confused with a Pesach. Says the Gemara, yeah, bali mumen lo michlafi. The animal which has a mum, it's apparently not a carbon Pesach. It doesn't get mixed up with the carbon Pesach, and therefore there's no justification for the tos. Hani michlafi. But an animal which is chulin looks very similar to the carbon Pesach, and yeah, his tos can be attributed to the mitzvah. Says the Gemara, v'tamid Rav Meir, mishum yichlufi v'lo yichlufi. Is this element of mixing up the animals the basis of Rav Meir's exemption? In which case you say it applies even to chulin? V'amar Rav Bebi Amar Rav Elazar. Didn't Rav Bebi tell us? Name Rav Elazar. Poiter Hayer Rav Meir afilu egel shezivchei shlomim sheshachta l'shem Pesach. We just learned that even an egel, a calf of a shlomim, which is shechta l'shem Pesach, he's pater for doing so. Nobody confuses a calf with a sheep. Apparently, the ichlufi factor is not the basis of Rav Meir's ptur. Alma, apparently, what then is the reason? Time of the Rav Meir mishum the tarit. It's on account of his preoccupation, his confusion, his haste. And that's why he says even a calf, being that he was anticipating that akrava, that confusion can be mitzvah related. But when it comes to a chulin, in which case he's not tarid, he's not preparing it for akrava, there's no reason to make it pot. Omar Leisi responded, actually both elements are true. When either element is present, Rav Meir would say pot. Tarid afagav loy mechlef. If he's preoccupied, then even if the animal itself is dissimilar to the carbon Pesach, he's still potter, because the person is anxious and in a haste, and therefore it's considered a mitzvah-related confusion. Or michlef afgav loy tarid. When we have the animal similar to the carbon Pesach, in which case it can get mixed up, that's also reason to make him potter, even if he himself is not currently busy preparing the carbon for akrava, such as in the case of a chulin, because it's similar in looks to the carbon Pesach. La fuki bali mumen, as opposed to the bali mumen, which carry none of these elements. The lo yichluf and michlef. Bal mum is apparently different than the carbon Pesach, visibly different. There's no mixing things up. V'lo mitzvah, nor is the person preoccupied. He's not bringing the bal mum as a carbon. So both elements are missing, and therefore it's not considered a mitzvah related to us, and it's chayiv achatas. So in summary, Rameya holds, one is sheichel l'shem Pesach, even an egel shlomim l'shem Pesach as potter because he's tarred in preparation for the akrova of that shlomim. Likewise, chulin l'shem Pesach as potter. There we have the michla factor. The animals look alike. But Rameya would agree, by a Baal Mum, he's chayiv, because none of these elements are present. He is not preparing the akrova, nor is the Baal Mum similar in looks to the carbon Pesach. Continues the Gemara. Yosef, Rabbi Zera, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yitzchak. They were both sitting akila on the porch to Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yitzchak. They were sitting and saying as follows. Some other confusion-related halachas. Omar Rabbi Shimon Melokish. Neschalfle shvud shel noiser, shvud shel tzli. Shvud is a spit which contains meat. He has one spit containing tzli, roasted carbon meat, which case eating it is a mitzvah. That's what he intended on doing. And nischalfle got mixed up with a shvud shel noiser, a spit containing noiser, in which case it's an avera, and he ate the noiser. V'achloi. What happens now? He intended on doing a mitzvah, but didn't actually carry out a mitzvah. Chayiv, because he didn't do a mitzvah. Rabbi Yechon added another case. Rabbi Yechon Amar, Ishtoi nida. Baal, if he lived with his wife who was a nida, chayiv, he has to bring a chatas. Yivamta nida Baal, but if he did yibam on his yivam, who happened to be a nida, pater, because he actually did a mitzvah. Ikadami. Now, what about the case of the spit? What would Rabbi Yochanan say in that case? So we have two approaches. Ikadami, some say koshkein. If in this case Rabbi Yochanan says that he's chayiv by ishta nida, even though there's somewhat of a mitzvah there, then of course in the case of the meat he's chayiv because he didn't do any mitzvah. Koshkein certainly by hida mechayiv. The li'asa mitzvah, there was no mitzvah at all done. Not even something which resembles a mitzvah. That's one approach. Istamri, others said differently. The Rabbi Yechon would disagree with Rish Lakish. By he potter, in that case, he would be potter. He intended on eating the carbon and he ate the no, so he's potter. Why? My time. Hasam hu dahavale l'shyuli. In the case of Ishtei Nida, he's chayiv because he should have asked her if she's a Nida. So he's at fault. Aval hacha, but in the case of the meat, there was nobody there to ask. And therefore, he's not held accountable, and he's potter from the carbon. Okay, in any case, Rabbi Yechanan says that by Ishtei Nida is chayiv, by Vimtei Nida is potter. What's the difference between one and the other? Rabbi Yechanan, Maishna Yivimtei, the Ka'avid mitzvah. Why is it by Yivama we say he's potter? Even though he could have asked her, we say he's potter because he intended on doing a mitzvah zibam, and he actually carried out a mitzvah. Ishta Nami, same thing with his wife. Ka'avid mitzvah. He did a mitzvah of puravu. Ishta muberes. She was expecting, in which case there's no mitzvah puravu. It still is a oina obligation towards his wife. That's also a mitzvah. Shloi b'shas hanasa wasn't at the prescribed time for oina. V'amar Rava, but didn't Rava tell us that even if it's outside this man oina, there still is a mitzvah. Chayiv adam l'sameach ishtay b'dvar mitzvah. A person has a chayiv to be sameach ishtay with a dvar mitzvah. Living with her, Rashi says, when she indicates that she needs it. So it's also a mitzvah. Samach levest was speaking that it actually turned out that this incident took place close to her period arriving, in which case it's also to be with her then, and it's not considered a mitzvah. Okay, if that's the case, then why is Yivama different? There as well. If it turns out that it was Samach Levesta, and he didn't do a mitzvah. When it comes to Yivama, he's uncomfortable asking her about her vest, about her period, and therefore he's not held accountable. Ishta as opposed to his wife, where he's not embarrassed of her, he should have asked. And in the case we see from Rabbi Yechanan that when a person intended on doing a mitzvah, for instance, he was Baal Yivimta when she was a Nida, we say he's potter. He intended on doing a mitzvah, he actually did a mitzvah, he's potter. Who's the source? Where did Rabbi Yechanan get this halacha from? Rabbi Yechanan, come on, whose shita was he following? Was he following Rabbi Yosi? This is not Rabbi Yosi. Yom Tov Rishon Shachag, on the first day of Sukkot, Shachalis v'Shabbos, which happens to be Shabbos, v'Shachach v'Hoitzi es alulav l'shus harabim, potter. If he inadvertently carried the lulav through the street, he's potter. Because he carried it with permission, meaning he was preoccupied, he was tired with the mitzvah. So perhaps that's Rabbi Yochanan's source. Says, well, not really. Dilma, Shani Hasan, perhaps there is different. This is Manei Bol. Since it's a time-sensitive mitzvah. It needs to be done today specifically, and only today. So since it has a limited time span, today is a mitzvah has to be done today. So on account of that, it created anxiety, it generated hastiness on his part, and as a result, he carried it through the street. So perhaps that's different. He was tired in the mitzvah, which had to be done today, as opposed to the yibum. He could have waited. It wasn't necessarily something that had to be done today. So there's no right from there to here. Perhaps it's our Rabbi Shua and our Mishnah, speaking about karbanis, which were brought l'shem Pesach. Rabbi Shua says he's potter because he was ta'ah b'dvar mitzvah, he was preoccupied with the bringing of the karban Pesach, and he did a mitzvah. He's potter. Perhaps that's the source. Dilmasam nami, it's Manei Bol. Perhaps there as well. This is Manei Bol. We're dealing with a very short time span here for the karban Pesach. So that generated anxiety and confusion. Perhaps it's the other Rabbi Shua speaking about the babies awaiting the bris milah. Where Rabbi Shua says the same concept applies there. If he was ta'ah b'dvar mitzvah, he's potter. Hasam nam is Manei Bol there as well. You have a time span. You have a time limitation. The bris has to take place on the 8th day. So perhaps that justifies confusion and mistake. Rabbi Shua the truma. Perhaps it's the other Rabbi Shua discussing truma, which will be the source of Rabbi Yechon, the Snan. This kohen, or he thought he was a kohen, was engaged in eating truma. V'noida, it turns out, he discovered, he had some sort of suspicion before, but it was confirmed, Shu ben grusha ben chalutza. He was the son of a divorcee or of a chalutza, in which case he's a chalal and unfit for eating truma. Rabbi Lezer mechayiv keren v'chaimish, he has to pay up the principal value of what he ate and the fifth. Rabbi Shua Paiter, he doesn't need to pay because in his mind he was doing a mitzvah. So you see this concept that ta'ah b'dvar mitzvah is pot. Says Gemara, perhaps there's different. Dilma could have baby barabai, the Amar Rabbi Rabbi. We're speaking about a very unique case. But truma of Pesach, we're speaking about this kind was engaged in consuming chametz, truma's chametz on Erev Pesach, in which case there's Manei Bol. Again, there's anxiety reigning here. It has to be eaten up quickly. That's a true teretz of the mitzvah. Inami, or perhaps shani truma. Truma is different. The ikri avodah. Truma is regarded as serving Hashem, like avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, and that's different. V'avodah rachmana achsha. When it comes to avodah, the Torah says that even if it turns out that this fellow was unfit for the avodah, after the fact we say it's kosher. And therefore, Rabbi Shua says he's potter from paying up. This nan, we learned in the Mishnah. This kohen was in the middle of doing the hakrava on the mizbeach, v'noida, and he discovered Shu ben grusha ben chalutza. It was discovered that he's an apostle. Kol ha-karbanos kulan sheikriv al gabi ha-mizbeach psulin. All the karbanos that he brought apostle. Rabbi Shua machshir. Rabbi Shua says, after the fact we say it's kosher. V'aminim, and we asked, my timer the Rabbi Shua. What is the reason of Rabbi Shua is being machshir the karbanos which were offered by a apostle? T'chsiv borech Hashem cheloi u'poyol yodev tirtzeh. This is the pasuk regarding Kohanim. Hashem b'mavorech cheloi. Chelu, Rashi says, even the chalolim, those that are apostle from Kuna, you should accept their handiwork. So there's a special allowance here. After the fact, we say what he did is fine. Likewise by the truma, which is considered avodah, as we soon will see, and therefore, by the eved, he's not responsible to repay for that truma. Or perhaps it's unrelated to Rabbi Yehuda, which is an entirely different concept. It says the more truma heicha ikri avodah. Where do we find that truma is called avodah? The Sanya. Maaseh Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon was a kohen. Shaloi ba emesh lebeis hamedrash. He wasn't present in the Beis Medrash in the evening. L'shachris, the next morning, Matzai Rabbi Gamliel. Gamliel met him. Amar lo, he asked him, why didn't you come to the Beis Medrash last night? Amar lo, avodah avanti. I was busy doing avodah. Amar lo is called varecha enan ela divrei tema. Rabbi Gamliel responded, your words are cryptic. I don't quite understand what you mean. What do you get avoida nowadays? There's no Beis Hamikdash. Amar Lo, he responded, I was referring to eating truma. How are you, Omer? The pasuk says, avoidas matana etein es kunaschem v'azor hakarav yumas. The Torah is referring to the matnas kuna, the truma, etc., given to the kehanim, and referring to it as avoida. Also, achilas truma v'gvul. The Torah regarded eating truma out in the cities, k'avoidas Beis Hamikdash, just like the avoida in the Beis Hamikdash. That's why I refer to it as avoida. So in summary, in today's brat, we learned that if one is makrib another carbon l'shem Pesach and does it on Shabbos, according to Rabbi Lezer, brings a chatas. According to Bishur, he was told by Dvar Mitzvah and his potter. Rabbi holds all agree is potter. Rabbi Yechon gave us another example of Baal Yivim Tanida where he's potter. We searched high and low for his source, and at this point we came up empty-handed. Hatzlacha Rab.